All right, last night we finally had the market capitulation on crypto. Just look at what happened yesterday on the chart. So we broke the structure and we went down with a one big red candle on Bitcoin. And if you look at where that candle actually ended, it was around 61,000. So we wicked all the way down to 61,000. And the reason why I say that it was the capitulation yesterday is not because of what happened to the Bitcoin chart, but if you look at the alts, what you can see is that the alts actually also broke down. So for the first alts to break down were the major alts. So you've got Solana, which is now under $70. It was actually trading, try and give it to you here, 66.20. That's on this chart where the Solana chart went to. Then even Hyperliquid and Near Protocol, which you can kind of say are the darlings of this cycle. Even Hyperliquid and Near Protocol actually broke down. You had Near, which yesterday was trading at $3.08, now trading at $2.38. It was at $2.29, and I guess that is partially due to, or maybe in part due to the fact that Arthur Hayes actually came out and said that he's selling his near position and he's selling his high position. Okay, so he's come out and basically said he's selling his near position, he's selling his high position, and he'll tell us why in an essay that comes out next week, Tuesday, which we're going to try and get Arthur on the show next week, Tuesday, to actually talk to us about that. Which is kind of weird because just a week ago, I mean, this was a week ago, right? This was the 30th of May, he said, fuck TradFi, fuck the Clarity Act, meow, hype goes to $150. And today he actually went and sold. Anyway, in the capitulation of the last 24 hours, we have had $1.79 billion in liquidations in the crypto market. According to this, now, I don't really think that this can be real, but according to this, that's the biggest weekly capitulation or liquidation event that we've had. Even, I mean, that here, this is the 10th of October. So I'm not sure that this is correct, but what you can see is that in this week, we've had some big liquidations. Fear and greed, also now at 12. Gone back down into extreme fear, and demand for Bitcoin completely contracting, actually compared to the Terra Luna collapse period. So we're seeing the beginning of a capitulation. And I say the beginning of a capitulation because unfortunately, I don't think that this is the end of the pain. I think that this is the beginning of the end. It's the beginning of the big capitulation, but it's certainly not the end. And that's why I tweeted earlier and I said, it's starting to feel like a bottom, but it's not there yet. It's not exactly at a bottom yet. It is starting to feel more like a bottom. And the reason why I say it's starting to feel more like a bottom is because of what I'm seeing on the charts and because of what I'm seeing on crypto Twitter and because of what I'm seeing on chain. When I look at the charts, you see that Bitcoin has actually broken down, but Bitcoin hasn't swept the lows yet. So that's the lows of February. That is 59,967. And what you can see is that Bitcoin actually hasn't swept those lows. Now, what we know about bottoms in charts is that you see what happens is you go down, but then you go down and you sweep the lows. Every low is exactly the same. So you go down here and then you sweep the lows here. You go down here and then you sweep the lows here. You can see pretty much every bottom in crypto. There's another bottom. So go down and then sweep the lows again. Go down, sweep the lows again. And in this case, we haven't swept the lows on Bitcoin yet. On ETH, we have actually swept the lows. So if you look at the ETH chart, that's the ETH chart. We have just swept the lows. I mean, it's too small to even talk about. On Bitcoin, we also hit the 200-week moving average. So, which is a very key point when it actually comes to Bitcoin. So in Bitcoin, historically, usually the 200-week moving average marks the bottom of bear market. So if you look at 2017, that's 2017 over there. Let me give you guys a better view. That's 2017 over there. You can see that we just touched the 200-week moving average. Here we broke, this is COVID. We broke below slightly for like a short period of time. In 2021, we broke below the 200-week moving average. We retested it. And you can see here that from the 200-week moving average, when we broke below the 200-week moving average, which was here, we still went down about another 35% on Bitcoin. So this is a key level. And as you can see, we just tagged that key level over here. And that's why I say it's probably the beginning of the capitulation. It's not exactly the end of the capitulation. And I think I agree with 𝗙𝗘𝗧𝗪. He says, early signs of emotional capitulation emerging, but far from apathy. And what he means is that in a market bottom, when you look at a market bottom, and this is what a market bottom actually looks like. So we'll go back to this market bottom over here. That is a market bottom. And I'll show you another market bottom over here. You can see there's a characteristic about, why is this not adjusting automatically. Let's quickly get it here. Okay, so when you see market bottoms, and you saw one there, and you see another one over here, there is a characteristic that you can't see that one. So there we go. Again, I'll show it to you. There is a characteristic around all market bottoms, and the characteristic around all market bottoms is that you have two elements that are required in a capitulation. The first element that is required in a capitulation is price pain. And we're starting to feel the price pain, going from 125,000 on Bitcoin all the way down to 63,000 or 59,000, whatever it is. That gives you price pain. But it's not about price pain. It's also about time pain. You need time. You need a capitulation, or a bottom is a function of getting hit hard on price and also chopping sideways so that people actually hate this industry and become apathetic. So not only hate this industry, but actually become apathetic. We're at the point now where people are starting to hate this industry. But the hate is not enough for the market bottom to be in. The market bottom happens when we go past the hate phase, and then people say, I hate crypto so much, I'm leaving. And then they leave, and then they say, look, I actually don't really care about crypto. And when that apathy happens, that is what a bottom looks like. Now, again, I've been here for multiple bear markets, and I've seen the bottoms multiple times. Let me find you a better chart of Bitcoin. Maybe the Coinbase chart will actually show it to us better. So this is 2017, 2018. You can see that what happened was there was the whole price capitulation, and I reckon we're probably about here. And then there was this whole long sideways chop, which basically destroyed your life and made you hate crypto for 205, 250, almost 300 days before the bull market actually started. The same thing happened in 2021. We crashed down. We bounced around after we crashed down after the big, we bounced around, and actually the bull market only started like 205 days later, right? And so if you look at where we are in this chart, yeah, we're probably, you could say, in the midst of a price capitulation, even though if we were to follow every other cycle, we'd probably land up somewhere here in the 30s and the 40s. But that's not enough. That's not the end of the capitulation. That is, the end of the capitulation is when you chop sideways and chop sideways and chop sideways. And it sucks the life out of you, and you actually hate crypto, and you're like, you never, ever, ever want to see this asset class ever again. That is when, and you don't even want to think about it anymore. That is when the real capitulation happens. So as I said, I think right now we're witnessing the beginning of the capitulation. Up until a certain point yesterday, we kind of saw that there were certain altcoins that just wouldn't capitulate, right? So you had like Zcash, you had Near, you had Hyperliquid. They wouldn't capitulate, but even that changed last night. So Near went down, Hyperliquid went down, even Zcash actually went down. So we are in the beginning. We are in the beginning of the capitulation. And as Chris says, early signs of emotional capitulation, but far from apathy. And only when there's apathy, then do you actually get to a market bottom. At the same time, I don't know about you, but my timeline, Horace, yes. I forgot to welcome everybody. Welcome everyone. I got so into the zone that it must be the suit, because I'm wearing a suit today, so I got to be all serious. I got so in the zone that I completely forgot to welcome you. So welcome. Good to see you guys. Sorry about the bad day today. 800 viewers, 93 likes. Where is everyone? I do see Eric here in the chat. Triple Money, I see you in the chat every day. Look, the whole chat is basically a discussion between Eric and Triple Money. Where is Joanne Perry?
I don't see her, but Charles.
I see Charles is here. Charles, how's it, bro? Supernova here. Where is? I'm going to stop the show until Joanne Perry joins. If anyone knows Joanne Perry's number, you better get her back here. All right, let's carry on. So I don't know about your timeline, but my timeline looks something like this. It's just a whole long capitulation timeline. So Ryan Selker says, I feel like I've wasted a decade of my career in an industry with potential and high hopes. And an industry with potential and high hopes became a decrepit and ineffective lifeboat right before we really needed it to work. Even Charles Hoskinson, I don't know if you guys have been following this Charles Hoskinson story, but he's basically said he's taking a break. He says, I'm taking a break. What does TTYL stand for? Thank you. Thank you. What does TTYL stand for? Someone in the chat tell me what TTYL stands for. I don't know if you saw this. I think what happened with Cardano was Charles wanted to host a Cardano conference, and I think they voted against the budget for the Cardano conference. And I think it escalated something like that. Let me play this for you.
So this year's going to be very hard. The second half of the year for Cardano, we're probably going to see more dApps in DeFi die and a consolidation happen. I'm not exactly sure what my role or place is to resolve this. You know, I keep getting criticized relentlessly online. People every single day post on my Twitter feed the price of ADA and blame me for it collapsing. And I'd really like to know, I'd just like to understand what my agency is here. I don't have any special powers with Cardano. I don't have any governance keys. I don't have any ability to even initiate a hard fork, much less a protocol parameter change. I don't have access to the treasury. I don't even own the trademark for the name Cardano. All of the funding that was given for growing the ecosystem and governing the ecosystem was given to separate entities. And at the all-time high, it was billions of dollars. It was not given to me. So how can I exactly influence and grow and solve this problem for you? I'm being honest here, and I really would love to see an answer here. What power do I have?
So even Charles Hoskinson...
What control do I have over this?
Even Charles Hoskinson seems to have capitulated. He's now taking a break. I think he feels like he's frustrated and maybe even given up with given up to Cardano. But he's not the only one. This one says, Bitcoin is dead to me. For the first time since 2014, when my usual should I buy Bitcoin friends came for their scheduled emotional support, I told them no. I'm confident there's no longer a trade in Bitcoin because the original trade is gone. Bitcoin was the first meme coin. Do not waste time atting me because it's obvious, blah, 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 blah. So another capitulation now in the cards. Ryan Selkis, as he said, I feel like I've wasted a decade of my career on an industry with potential and high hopes that became a decrepit and ineffective lifeboat right before we actually needed it. So people are capitulating. Even 𝗕𝗓𝗄𝗏, he is a real Bitcoin maxi, and he says, Bitcoin is a hedge against uncertainty. And the market is very certain about one thing. AI will absorb the next decade of capital earnings, growth, power demand, semiconductor demand, data center build out, and productivity upside. Bitcoin crash has nothing to do with Saylor or Iran. So effectively, he's also now, you could say, capitulated and said, look, for the next 10 years, Bitcoin's, for the next decade, AI is the trade and Bitcoin's not the trade. And a lot of people, and that's the sentiment right now. But you want to see that sentiment at the end of a bear market. Usually, when people capitulate, and again, I say we're nowhere near the end of the bear market. This is the first day where I'm actually seeing capitulation in the markets. It's the first day in the entire bear market that I'm actually seeing signs of real capitulation. People really starting to give up. But I say it's the beginning. It's not the end of the capitulation. And right now, as in every time something like this happens, people need to blame someone. They need to blame someone for the fact that the markets are going down. And the scapegoat for this market is actually Saylor, right? Now, look, a lot of people are saying MSTR. This is Charles Edwards. He says MSTR is basically Terra Luna. The only question is, when does the music stop, right? This is in response to Bull Theory's tweet that says something might have broken inside Michael Saylor's Bitcoin machine. STRC was designed to stay near 100 forever. Strategy launched it in July, raised $2.5 billion from investors and used the money to buy more Bitcoin. Now, when you look at STRC, and it's actually just open, it's opened at $95. $95. Again, I say, I don't think that this is going to peg this. I don't think it ever needs to peg back to 100. Why does this need to peg back to 100? You cannot redeem STRC for 100. The $100 number is just this notional number that Saylor concocted in his head and that we concoct in our head, but it's not worth 100. There's no reason why this thing needs to trade at 100. So, to me, this STRC thing. People are blaming Saylor, and this guy says looks like the market is on a mission to get rid of Saylor. A lot of people are worried whether Saylor will actually blow up. Pray MicroStrategy doesn't blow up. Now, look, they're a long way away from blowing up. They've got 600 million in cash reserves. Let me show you the document that I've got here. I should have it here. Hold on a second. Here we go. So I don't know if you remember, but I showed this to you yesterday. And what it shows is that he has 900 million today in USD reserves. And that means that he's got enough dividend cover for the next 6 months. So he can literally do nothing, not raise a single cent for the next 6 months, and he'll still be fine before he needs to even sell one Bitcoin to pay some of the dividend. Let alone that at some point he will actually be able to raise money. So he's not going to fall apart just yet. Maybe in the future he will fall apart. Maybe he won't be able to pay a dividend, but it's not happening anytime soon. So I think that right now people are just looking for a scapegoat or someone to blame for the price going down, and they're blaming Saylor because it's convenient to blame Saylor. But I don't think he's going to go down anytime soon, because mathematically he can't go down anytime soon. Mathematically, he has 6 months worth of dividend cover left, and that's assuming that he hasn't raised any money. Now, I'm assuming that he has raised money and that we just don't know about it yet, and that he will announce that he's raised money at some point in time along the way. I don't think, though, that STRC is going to repeg this month, and therefore it's not going to save the market, and it's not going to help us in this capitulation. And so for now, I expect unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I kind of expect the prices to carry on doing what they've done every bear market and kind of land up somewhere here between 40 and 60,000. I hate saying it because I'm invested just like all of you, but I also am realistic about, that's the last chart, and that's this chart. It's not same. I mean, one big leg down. We're not in that one big leg down. We haven't even put in the lower low yet. The lower low would be at like under 60,000. We're not even there yet. We're nowhere near that, actually. So right now, unfortunately, it looks like another leg down. Unfortunately, it looks like another leg down. Also, very unfortunate is that if you look at Saylor and you look at Tom Lee, both of them are down about $10 billion. So Saylor's now, his unrealized loss is about $10 billion. But that's on $60 or $50 billion worth of assets. Tom Lee is down $10 billion and he only has $10 billion worth of assets, which is why I found it extremely strange that he went and launched a pref exactly like Saylor. He launched a pref that pays 9.5%, except his one is actually backed by ETH. He's just seen how the market has punished Saylor, and he launches a pref. I think he launched a pref for $500 million or something. But a 9.5% Series A perpetual stock. Now look, granted, on ETH, that makes a lot more sense because ETH does have a staking yield. But the staking yield on ETH is like 2.5%, and he's paying out 9.5%, which means that he is also leveraging his ETH. Effectively, that's what he's doing. He's basically betting on the fact that ETH will carry on going up and he'll be able to pay the dividend. Otherwise, he'll have to sell the ETH. I think this is a bad idea. Unlike Saylor, he doesn't have this treasury of Bitcoin that he bought at a much lower price. He is $10 billion underwater for his shareholders. And now he's coming out with an ETH that is committing to 9.5% coupon. I mean, how dumb are you? So I shouldn't say that because I actually want to get him on the show. But, bro, you don't go and leverage your ETH stack when you are $10 billion down. Anyone can tell you that. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I mean, have I missed something here? Seriously. No, I mean, this is absurd. You see that Saylor is having a very hard time because he's committed a dividend to the market. I get it that you're earning 2% staking yield on ETH. But to offer 9.5%, where are you going to get the 9.5% from? You're going to start putting ETH in a position where we have to start liquidating ETH? I mean, for God's sake, could you not have done this calculation? My God, I'm actually angry. The reason why I'm angry is because these guys go and leverage up the asset, and then when they get into trouble, the market goes down, and then we get stuffed in the market actually going down. Okay, I'm wearing a suit today. I must make it. I must be a little bit more professional. Looking to raise $300 million at 9.5%. It carries a 28.5% a year perpetual dividend. So you're going to take the 2.7% that you earn on the $10 billion of ETH that you've got, right? And then you're going to start paying it out as a dividend. Oh my God. Okay, I'm not going to comment. So much hair, but so little brains. I shouldn't say that because I want to get him on the show. I really shouldn't say that. But you see, my weakness in life is that I can't control my emotions. I can't control my emotions. That's my problem in life. One of my problems in life. Okay, so that's where we are. We're in the beginning of the capitulation. I must remind you of something whilst we are watching the charts in real time. I'll take you to the chart that I'm watching in real time. That's the chart I'm watching. I mean, the S&P is still at all-time highs, actually slightly up today. The NASDAQ is also at all-time highs today. So, like, this is not even the beginning of the... That's not the NASDAQ, sorry. Here's the NASDAQ. We are at the beginning of a capitulation. I mean, the stock market hasn't even crashed yet, and the stock market will crash, as 𝗕𝗏𝗃 said. And by the way, you got to give 𝗕𝗏𝗃 credit because he has called this. He has called this. He has been saying for a long time that the market's going to come down. The market's going to come down. The market's going to come down. The market did come down exactly like he said. But he said something else last night. He said, I mean, it's not if the stock market will crash, it's when the stock market will crash. Ben says, a plausible path. Bitcoin forms a new low in June, like it did in June 2018 and June 2022. Bitcoin rallies in July. SPX corrects later in the year, which allows Bitcoin to finally bottom with the stock market correction. And then the 4-year cycle wins again. Now, are we getting Ben on the show? We have to call Amy here. We have to ask Amy. Let's ask Amy. Amy. No, she's not here. She's not here. I wonder if she's gone to fetch Ben.
Maybe.
You know, actually, we have Ben. I can see we have Ben on tomorrow. So Ben's coming on tomorrow. We'll play that one. Or on the weekend. On the weekend, we'll have Ben on for you. We also have the SpaceX IPO coming on now. I got to talk about the SpaceX IPO because it's going to suck a lot of liquidity, right? Now, remember that they're raising $70 billion. $70 billion. 70 billion smackaroos. They're raising $70 billion. Where's that money going to come from? Hardest, do you have 70 billion?
No way.
Joanne Perry, do you have 70 billion? Who else is here? Who else is in the chat? Glenn, do you have 70 billion? No one has 70 billion. So where do you get the money to invest in this life-changing IPO? You got to sell something. What are you selling? Well, that's what people are doing. They're selling Bitcoin. That's what Saylor is saying, at least, right? Saylor is basically saying, look, you guys can blame me as much as you want, but capital markets are funding the AI build-out at an historic scale, $400 billion over 6 months. Bitcoin ETFs have seen $4 billion worth of outflows since May 14, pressuring Bitcoin. This is a capital rotation, not a Bitcoin impairment. Volatility creates opportunity. So everyone's blaming Saylor. Saylor's blaming AI. I think Saylor's right, though. I think everyone just wants to be part of the AI, not bubble, of the AI run. And so they're selling everything else to get into AI. I prefer to go to the trade that is out of favor and catch it when it's in favor. But the only thing for that is you need patience. And you all know that I don't have patience and you don't have patience and nobody has patience. So that's what Ben Cowan says. I mean, let me give you some hopes. I'm going to give you multiple hopes now because I think these hopes are very good. First thing is, the last 2 times that the Bitcoin daily RSI was this low, let's go to the Bitcoin daily RSI. The RSI is a momentum indicator. It's a momentum indicator. Let's quickly look at it. So RSI, relative strength index, and let's go to the 1 day. It hasn't been this low. Oh, that's the NASDAQ. I was like, wow, it's actually much higher than I thought. Let's quickly go to the RSI. So here's the RSI. Oh my goodness, look at that. The RSIs have been this low once on February 6, 2026. And before that was COVID. That was COVID, the last time that the RSIs were this low. We all know what happened both of those times. So that's your first bit of hopium for the day. Second bit of hopium I actually like quite a bit. It's from Merton. He says, yeah, so crypto wasn't dead the last 5 times when literally none of it worked. But now that it works and we're about to pass the biggest digital piece of legislation in history is when it'll die. Or perhaps you're just being emotional. I think you're being emotional. Lastly, which I want to show you, or which I want to share with you, is this. So there is something going on in crypto, and I'm going to make a show about it on Crypto Insider. But effectively, the punchline is that we're at a point now where crypto isn't dying, but crypto stopped needing Bitcoin. And that's because we have all these good protocols that are generating fees regardless of Bitcoin. And all these good protocols that are generating fees are running even though Bitcoin is in a bear market. Now, I've said to you over the last couple of days that this is the first bear market that I've seen that some protocols are running even though Bitcoin is in a bear market. It's completely unusual. Only if you've been here for a long time, if you're one of the veterans in this industry, will you actually understand that. And we're seeing it happening. So 3 bits of good news. Another bit of good news. If you want another bit of good news, I'll give you another bit of good news, but only once I plug in my microphone again because I can't hear myself. I couldn't hear myself. Now I can hear myself. I'm the only one talking, so okay, let's pause this. Okay. So the other bit of good news, and there is some more good news. The first bit of good news is that the variational, if you are farming variational, you should be farming variational because now there's a lot of volatility. You will get your points in like the next day or so. So if you're not farming. The second thing is that you should probably watch the video that I made yesterday. And also the BTCC opened their special again. What is the BTCC special? So you deposit money. They give you a 10% deposit bonus. So let's say you deposit $10,000. They give you $1,000. Then what you do, but you didn't hear this from me because I'm wearing a suit today and I'm very serious, is that you trade the $1,000 that they give you and you withdraw your $10,000. And so you get a free $1,000 position. Absolutely, absolutely free. Cool, that's it. Is there anything else that's happening today? Or let's go. I'm looking at the newsroom just to see if anything else is happening today. Nothing happening today. Nothing else happening today. It's the beginning of the capitulation. It's the beginning of the end of the downturn. It's not the end. Stay safe out there, my friends. Maybe we'll get a bounce. Hopefully we'll get a bounce. Let's actually look at the charts one last time before we go. Bitcoin's at 64,000. ETH is back at 1,800 or $1,780. What else is happening out there? Hype 66. Let's actually look at the bubbles quickly, just one last time. Oh, we do have Ethereum app, but I think it's still under 11 cents. Let's have a look. 10.4 cents. We have WorldCoin still up. Actually, WorldCoin and 𝗕𝗘𝗏 have done really well. They're actually part of our portfolio. So, yeah. All right, my friends. Stay safe out there. Yeah, stay safe. That's really all I can say to you. Trade well, my friends.